Good morning, boys, and welcome to Thursday, March 11th. Today, we're going to continue with our Dr. Seuss series, and we're going to read One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish. We're going to do some first, second, and third work. We're going to, off we go, trace and cut some squiggly lines to practice our cutting and taking our time with our tracing. And we are going to make super cool fish. Now, I just want to show you, this has been in my my plastic bag for a year. So let me puff it up. But these fish, I'm going to do it with this one. These fish are actually going to be able to move when we get them up and running. Like I said, these have been stuck in my plastic bag, but we can get them, they're going to be able to move. When we make the new ones, you can really see it. This is going to be the newer one. You're going to be able to really see how our fish move. Okay, and they're going to have, here's our mouth, our eyes, our fins, and the back fin. And the back fin is shaped like a heart. So that's going to be a fun craft that we're going to do today. We're going to continue with our letter K, but let's start our day in prayer. 2 little eyes to look to God, 2 little ears to hear his word, 2 little feet to walk in his way, hands to serve him all of my day. Amen. All right, so let's jump in to another day. Let's start off with off we go. Now you notice I have you see the wind up here blowing our kites, because that's what we're going to start. We're going to see a lot of that in March and April. We're going to see a lot of different kinds of weather, but especially we're going to see rain. It's going to be warm one day and chilly the next, and we're going to see rain and maybe even still a little snow. So March and the beginning of April are crazy months. All right, so let's take out whatever marker you want or crayon, and we're going to start tracing. We're going to start over here at the bottom of the string of the kite, and we're going to work our way to the kite. And we're going to take our time doing this. And the reason why I wanted to trace first is because when we trace and we connect the dots, it's easier to follow it to cut. And we're going to do the same with the second kite, just taking our time, following along till we get to the kite. All right, so our lines look like this or something like that, and you can pick whatever color you want. It doesn't matter to me what color. And then we're going to practice cutting. Now remember, when I was teaching you to cut the last time, not teaching you to cut because you know how to cut, but teaching you how to cut this kind of pattern, I was asking you to try to move your paper rather than move the scissors. Okay, and I know it might be tough, and if you think this is not helpful, you don't have to do it. But it's a lot easier to turn the paper than it is the scissors sometimes. But whatever works for you. Okay, and then we're going to stop at the kite. All right, and I know this is going to take you a little bit more time. Also, Michelle is using adult scissors, so they're longer. So it doesn't take me as much time to cut because the blade on the scissors is longer. All right, and then we're going to, when we get to our kites, we can color them in. And you can do that now, or you can do it during coloring time. Whatever works for you and mommy and daddy, or whoever's doing your lesson with you today. Maybe Brinkley's doing your lesson with you. I don't know. That'd be pretty funny. Or your kitty cats. All right, I just did one, but you can color in your kite. All right, so we're practicing tracing and we're practicing cutting on this one. All right, good job. Okay, so, excuse me, our next worksheet is called sequencing. What comes first, second, and third? What comes first, second, or third? All right, so we can do two things. Oh, actually, we can do both if you want. We can look at these pictures and we can decide which comes first and put a 1. Excuse me today, boys. We can put a 1. We can decide what comes second and put a 2, and what comes third and put a 3. All right, we could do that on our pictures. We could put the numbers right in the boxes. But I thought it would be fun to take our piece of paper, a construction piece of paper or any piece of paper, and write the numbers on there. And then there's 2 sets here. So we're going to just cut out the 2 sets. So we're going to have, here is one of our friends getting dressed in the morning, or I guess might not be getting dressed, he's already dressed, he's putting his shoes on. And then this one is eating his breakfast or eating dinner or whatever meal. Okay, so there's 2 here. All right, so do not get them confused. Put one aside, and then you can look at this one. We're looking at the one where he's putting his shoes on, and we're just gonna cut the rectangle out. So all along the outside, the rectangle. Okay, and then when that's done, you're gonna have 3 pictures. And then you can go down and cut each picture out. So, like I said, don't mix them up. Just do one set at a time. So there's going to be 3. Okay? You're going to need your glue stick. And let's decide looking at these pictures. Okay, so there's a picture of our friend sitting on the bed. There's a picture of our friend putting socks on. And then there's a picture of our friend putting shoes on. So we have to decide what comes first, second, and third. So the first thing that we're looking at in this picture is he's just sitting on the bed. He doesn't have shoes on. So we know that he's not put his socks or his shoes on. So that I'm thinking this is first. He is in bare feet. So on our paper, we're going to glue that right over the 1. If you don't want to do that, if you don't want to glue them, then you're going to just put in the box, you're just going to put a number 1, because this is what happens first. He's sitting on the bed, his feet are bare, so he doesn't have his socks or his shoes on. We have 2 pictures left, and we have our friend putting his sock on, and we have our friend putting his shoes on. Now, when you put your, when you get dressed in the morning, when you go to put your shoes on, are we putting our socks on first, or are we putting our shoes on first? And, you know, it's funny because when I think of saying that, I say your socks and your shoes. I don't say shoes and socks. I say your socks and your shoes, because the next thing we put on are socks. Okay, we don't put our shoes on and then put our socks on top. We put our socks on. So on the number 2, you're going to put your friend putting his socks on. And again, if you don't want to glue them on, you just want to put them in order, our friend putting his socks on is going to be the second thing that he does. So first he sits on the bed, then he puts his sock on, and number 3, he's putting his shoes on. So of course we put our socks on first, and then we put our shoes on. Unless it's Wacky Wednesday, and then all bets are off. We don't know what we're doing on Wacky Wednesday. You learned that from yesterday, right? That was crazy, all the things that were going on Wacky Wednesday. All right, so I glued this on over my number 3, or I put a number 3 in the box, or you can do both. Okay, so we started out, he's sitting on the bed, no shoes or socks. He puts his socks on, he puts his shoes on. Now we're gonna turn that paper over, and we're gonna do the same thing, but we're gonna do it with this set of 3. And we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna cut out the rectangle. Oh, triangle, goodness gracious. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me. Always in twos, boys. Michelle always sneezes in twos. All right, so we're gonna throw out our paper, the extra paper, and we have our picture. All right, and now we're gonna cut the same as the other one. We're just gonna cut so we have 3 pictures. All right, now let's take a look at our picture. What is happening in this story? I see our friend, he's eating, and he's got food on his plate. I see our friend walking over to the sink. It looks like his plate is empty except for his knife and fork, and he's got his cup or his glass. And then here is our friend, and his plate is empty, and it looks like he's just coming to sit at the table. So we have to decide which is first, what's happening first. All right, so think about that and tell me what you think is the first picture. Is it him cleaning his dishes? Is it him eating? Or is it him coming to the table? Okay, and while you're thinking about that, I'm gonna put my choice on here and we'll see if we match. I'm gonna start with, he's coming to the table and his plate is empty. All right, and I'm gonna put a number 1 in that box. Okay, so he's coming, he's actually setting, it looks like he's setting the place, setting his place setting. And then, is he bringing the dishes over to the sink or is he eating? Do we wash our dishes before we eat or do we wash the dishes after we eat? We wash them after, right? So my second picture is going to be our friend who looks like he is enjoying a very yummy meal. So he's sitting down to the table. He just put his place setting down. Now his food is on his plate and he's eating. You can see his face, he's eating. And then after we're done eating, we walk our plates over to the sink. And either you wash them or you put them in the dishwasher. I don't know if it's your job to do that, if you guys have jobs, but somebody has to wash them in the house. And I'm gonna glue that on my 3, the spot 3 that I wrote on, and then I'm gonna put a number 3 here. He's sitting down to eat, he's enjoying his meal, and he's cleaning up after. All right, so again, you can cut them. I would like you to cut them. And you can put them in order and then write the numbers on them. You can glue, paste them, glue them, use your glue stick to put them on, put the numbers on them. Okay, up to you. But we have to think about what's next. And I tell you, I've been telling you that you're telling a story. So if you look at the pictures, your story should make sense. So if we're looking at our friend on the bed and we start with he's putting his shoes on, and then we say what happens next, wait a minute, the other picture is he doesn't have shoes on, and the other picture is he's putting his sock on. So if we're telling the story, you know, our friend Joey woke up in the morning and he got dressed, and then he decided, I'm gonna wear my sneakers today. So he sat on his bed, he started by putting on his socks, and then after his socks, he put on his shoes and he started his day. He was going outside to play. You're telling a story. And if your story makes sense after you have put them in the order that you think that they belong, then your story will make sense. And if you didn't, you made a mistake when you're telling the story, it's not going to be so clear, and then you're going to go and you're going to start over with that story. And if you remember, I think it was yesterday that we talked about the illustrator, Christian Robinson, and boys, I ordered the book. I know we talked about that. I was able to order the book on Scholastic last night. When we talked about him, he specifically said in his story that he makes mistakes. And when he makes mistakes, he's writing the story through his imagination. He makes mistakes, and then he goes back and he starts over or he fixes them. So same with our storytelling. We're going to make mistakes, and when we do, we just go back and we figure it out. All right, so the book that I chose today, continuing on our Read Across America, Happy Birthday, Dr. Seuss, is One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish.